Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. It is Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, and welcome to Soul Strengthening Sessions. Today we are talking about adversity and uncertainty. These are two of the biggest obstacles to living our fullest and most enjoyable life. And today we're going to learn a little bit about them and how we can posture ourselves to carry ourselves well when faced with both of them. So what are these two? Uncertainty is the state of being uncertain, not able to be relied on, not known, and not definite. Adversity is hardships, difficulties, misfortune that are serious and prolonged or in a continued state. So most of us have encountered both of these in our life because they are part of life. So as they are a guarantee in life, we need to learn how to go through life as they come against us. So our first step I'm going to share with you is to acknowledge and accept this truth. When we acknowledge and accept, we can be postured to carry ourselves and carry ourselves well through them both when they arrive. Now, last week I shared on self. I encourage you to watch these videos. I am actually uploading them on YouTube. So you can find me there, and you can find many other videos that I've been sharing over the last 2 years. But I am going to get a little bit more in depth about self, because it's important for us to know self and know self well, so that when things come against us like adversity and uncertainty, we are unshakable. Okay? So the big question I pose today for all of us is, how do we carry self when faced with uncertainty and adversity? Okay, so I'm going to get into self for just a little bit. So you're going to want to take some notes here, because I wrote a lot down for us today. And I'm going to begin with the entire self. The entire self is spirit, soul, heart, and body. Now, with self, we carry our own brokenness that we inherited from parents and guardians, as well as our own life experiences. I call these the two pillars of the state, this human state of brokenness. Okay? These, I believe, are the foundations to why we carry the brokenness that we carry in our life. They come from childhood and adolescence, which is where we've inherited much of our brokenness from our parents or guardians. And the second is our life experiences, which I've shared a lot, especially if you follow me on She Is Restored YouTube channel. I share a lot about this. But we need to know this, because this is part of self. This is part of who we are, and it is part of why we battle what we battle on a daily basis, and the things that we find ourselves in can stem from either of these two or both of these two pillars. Okay, so we are spirit, soul, and body. And within spirit, soul, and body, we have these powerful three parts of self that are constantly interconnected and functioning all at the same time. Now, what we need to understand is that in order for us to learn how to carry self well, we need to know self well. Okay? So what I'm going to focus on right now is understanding this part of self, and that is past self, present self, and future self, which again, 3 states of existence that are interconnected with who we are, because although we learn and have been learning to make peace with the past and let go of the past and move on from the past, our past is what has brought us to our present. And our present state is what is taking us to our future. So when we learn how to mesh them all together and understand them, then we are able to function in our fullness of self. Okay? Now, in order for us to carry ourselves well through life and life's uncertainty and life's adversity, we need to be one with who we are. We cannot stand against adversity when it comes, and we cannot be bold in uncertainty when it comes, when we are at war with self. So there is this understanding that we as a whole are comprised of a broken self and a whole self, which I've shared a lot. Okay? Now, the hope is to get in touch with both and learn to bring the balance together so that you are not running away from those parts of yourself that are uncomfortable and that are painful, but you are actually learning to embrace that broken part of self so that you can heal and you can be restored and you can bring that fullness into your path and onto your path to restoration. We, as I've shared before, we are on this journey while we are here to understand who we are, why we're here, and where we're headed. So learning the basics of self is so foundational and paramount to understanding how to function and operate in this crazy world that, as we know, has gotten worse and is getting crazier. So, our past self, let's begin there. Our past self impacts and influences our present self, which it does we must know how to make peace with those parts of self that we are not always proud of, or worse, we have not learned how to heal from. So this is the whole inner healing journey that I teach on, and I'm a huge advocate of, because I have been on it and I know the power that it has to change your life. And it really doesn't matter what you've been through, because we've all been through something, and we are all going through something, or we will all go through something that will shake us to the core, and that will be a part of our testimony and a part of our healing to others. In fact, pain is what leads to purpose. And that sounds counterintuitive a lot of the time, because our natural instinct is to run away from pain, because we were not created to live in pain. We were not created to function in brokenness, and we were not created to live in a broken world. But we do have tools, and we do have the ability to heal from whatever we've gone through, so that we can be the best self that we can be, and we can impart that to others so that they too can help each other and grow. Okay? So let's go to uncertainty for a minute. When faced with uncertainty, we all have a natural tendency to respond based on what is commonly known as our trauma responses. Because uncertainty makes us afraid. And last week, actually it was 2 weeks ago, I shared on anxiety, and I taught a little bit on the power of understanding where you tend to go when you get anxious, because that is actually foundational to you understanding how to handle uncertainty in life, as well as adversity in life. When you know where you tend to go, and the two states that I shared are anger, which is a raw emotion, and it is typically one that is projected outward. It is typically a state where you feel the need to be in control of circumstances or people to bring chaos that is around you or chaos that is within you back to order. The other extreme is sadness and depression, which is basically internalized anxiety. You actually are the opposite. You feel helpless and hopeless in the face of anxiety and uncertainty and adversity. You feel the need to retreat and not participate. In fact, you just want to run away and hide from whatever's coming at you. So they're both overwhelming states that anxiety can catapult us into, but they are equally important, and they are equally necessary to understand how to function through them. And I'll probably get into that actually in the future, because I do feel this has been on my spirit a lot lately with getting a little bit more in depth about these two extremes and where you are and how you can handle your own anxiety in life. So where does all of this come from? This ability to handle the adversity and handle stress and challenges and difficulties and the adversity of life. Where do we find the strength and the strategy to combat it and to carry ourselves well through this? Because the hope here and the goal here is to learn how to carry yourself through all of it. And it begins with our soul, which is spirit, which is mind, will, and emotions. Now, our mind is the leader of the soul. I've shared this before, but it's important to know that our mind is running the show. So to get a good grasp on how the mind operates and how the mind functions is your starting point. Again, so knowing that when I get anxious, or when I'm faced with adversity, or when I'm faced with the unknown, what happens to me? Do I try to control the situation, or do I try and run away from the situation? Either one, you can still learn how to be bold and walk through anything that you're going through in life. But it does start with knowing how to take authority over your thought life. Now, our thoughts are made up of words that we have spoken, words that have been spoken to us, information that we receive, whether it's through television, whether it's through people, whether it's through social media, whether it's through anything. Whatever we are consuming, in fact, whatever we give attention to is what has power over us, and what has power over how we think, because our minds and our brains are constantly growing and developing, and it is run on words. So there is a very deliberate step that must be taken for each of us to decide, what am I feeding my mind? What am I consuming on a daily basis? Because you do have the choice to decide what you receive as information, fact, and truth into your thought life. Now, this is where we also get into the understanding that a lot of our thought life is simply on autopilot because of what we received growing up, as I mentioned earlier, and what we have misunderstood as truth in our life experiences. So this is where we take a look and understand more deeply on renewing the mind, which again is a deliberate process where you learn that some of the things that I learned growing up and some of the things that I was taught, some of the quote-unquote truth that I was given is actually not true. For example, and this is sort of an extreme example, but it might resonate with some of you. But if as a young child or an adolescent, someone abused you, you might have an erroneous thought growing up thinking that you deserved that abuse, which is not true. So we would have to relearn that going through a traumatic event like physical abuse is not your fault. Now, I do teach on trauma, and a lot of the times when we have gone through trauma, it can act as, and especially if it's not healed yet, it can act as a foggy lens of perspective on everything, which is why it's important for us to remember that going back to past self, which is part of present self, and leading to future self is vital. So the degree of health that we have with our inner being is going to determine how we carry ourselves through the adversity, through the uncertainty, and clearly in the direction of where we are going in life. Okay, so how do we govern the mind? Well, if we know that our mind is made up of words that we've accumulated, that we've established belief systems out of, then it is a matter of relinquishing, releasing, and replacing those thoughts. Now, it's also important to remember that our soul, and I've shared this a lot because it's truth, but our soul needs an anchor to pull its strength from. And by nature and by default, it pulls from our spiritual being. So the strength of spirit will influence and empower or lack the ability to help our soul. So it is important to understand, where am I drawing my mental strength from, which impacts my emotional strength, which impacts my ability to make decisions for my life. We have, as spiritual beings, we have to have a spiritual foundation. Many of you know I believe in the ancient literature of the Bible, and a lot of what I teach comes from that spiritual understanding and truth that we are created in the image of God. And it is by His Spirit that we are given everything we need to walk this life. But where are you today? Do you know where you pull your strength from? Do you have somewhere you pull your strength from? Because it is there that you're going to learn how to handle uncertainty and adversity in life. Renewing the mind is where you begin to learn how to combat anxieties, difficulties, challenges, all of it. And I will say this, and it's very important to remember this, because I know when you're in it, when you're going through something, it can be hard to remember that you're not the only one who is suffering. We are all suffering with something. We are all learning. We are all growing and going through something. And so you're not without hope. And also, I would like to say that if any of you need any one-to-one sessions, I am available. I will share, as I do on my YouTube videos, the links where you can reach me, so you can learn how to have strategies and tools to go on this journey for yourself, which I believe we all should be on some level, to learn how to be free from things that we've been through and learn how to manage things that we are going through, so that we can be the best versions of ourselves while we're here, and that we can help others while we are here. And we are all here with purpose. We are all here with a calling and assignment. And that simply means that your life, in all its imperfection, in all its glory, is here to bless others. And I hope that for you, and I pray that for you. So I hope this has helped you a little bit to understand a little bit more on how we can handle these two areas of life that are very, very present and common in every day. And I will upload this on YouTube, and I will reach you guys next week. Feel free to find me on Instagram or YouTube. And I love you guys so much. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye.